What's good, family? It's your boy Tim back at it again with another vid. I'm currently standing up because there's a hornet's nest right where I was about to sit. Um, and yeah, didn't want to be sitting down doing the video. Then mid vid, I'm being attacked by hornets. So I was like, nah, you know what I mean? But I didn't want to move nowhere else because, you know, it's humid and I'm already sweating. I got a hoodie on just in case it don't rain. This is one of my older hoodies. It's this little joint right here. But yeah. So I'm standing up outside in the humidity. Uh, and yeah, so today's lesson we talking about the fruits of the spirit, right? So I think I was speaking on this part. I was in Galatians a little while ago in one of my earlier or in one of the messages that I had posted a couple weeks ago. If not, I think last week. I might be wrong, but I was like, when I was reading it, I was like, at the end of it, I was reading the fruits of the spirit, right? Which is crazy because at the same time as I was reading that, I think maybe like a couple of days after that, the verse of the day came back, and the verse of the day on one of the days uh, was talking about the same thing, right? And so I was like, well, maybe I should speak on that. I should definitely speak on that. You know what I mean? So yeah, got my laptop right here with all my notes. Got the verses to go through. I'm gonna read the verses, and it's literally just two verses. So yeah, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Share it with all your people so we can all have a good time. Uh, I think the timing that I'm gonna be on when it comes to these type of videos, these messages is I'm gonna try to just find different backgrounds as I'm doing these vids, right? So I was uh, further this way when I was recording the last message. I think the message before that I was on the lake side over there with the two lakes, and today I'm kind of in the middle. So I'm gonna try to find that. Anyways, I'm going off topic, but anyways, yeah. So we're gonna get right into it. We're gonna be in Galatians, uh, chapter 5, verse 22 through 23. Right. I'm gonna read this verse. Right. I'm gonna read these verses first, and then I defined pretty much all of the fruits of the spirit, just so I can kind of elaborate more on that. And then after I define and elaborate even more on how to apply these things in life and everything like that too. So yeah. So we're gonna get into it, but if you see me moving closer or squinting, it's because the brightness on this laptop is trash, and so I have to like squint or look further in. So yeah, 22. Matter of fact, we'll do. Uh, I think I should probably do 13 to 23 through 23. Yeah, just to kind of. Nah, matter of fact, yeah, just so I can speak more on that. So yeah, never mind. So yeah, bet cool. So 22. Oh, I fell back. 22. But the fruit of the spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self control. Against such things there is no law. Those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. Since we live by the Spirit, let us keep in step with the Spirit. Let us not become conceited, provoking, and envying each other. I went all the way to 26, but it's okay. Um, so, yeah, the fruits of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self control. Right? Now, with this message, it was a little bit harder because some of these words kind of mean the same thing to me, right? Uh, yeah, kind of mean the same thing to me, like goodness, kindness. I'm like, don't that mean the same thing? But nah, I had to define them just to kind of, you know. So yeah, we're gonna start with love. Love is a selfless, unconditional, and sacrificial commitment to the well-being of others. Uh, which is crazy because as I was defining these words, they actually gave me some points to go along with. Not all of them, because of course I don't want to just steal all the notes from Google and then nah. So I came up with my own. But most of it, I would say, is kind of like the overview, or kind of like elaborating more on the word that what I mean, or applying it in how we should do it in what I mean. So yeah. So the highest form of love is agape. This is an unconditional, active, and sacrificial love, right? So how God's love work, right, is oh wait no, the Bible explicitly states that God is love, right? In First John chapter 4 verse 8. The ultimate demonstration of agape is found in John 3:16, where God sacrificed his son for humanity, and in Romans chapter 5 verse 8, which notes that Christ died for us even while we were still sinners, right? So love for others. Believers are commanded to extend this same sacrificial love to their neighbors and even to their enemies, right? So, whether it's your neighbor, whether it's your friend, whether it's family, what I mean, co-workers, what I mean, people, and even people that you don't like, what I mean, and you should always be spreading love, what I mean. So one day the beef could either be squashed, or you could just, or if they still hating on you, just know that it's not you giving off that energy. It's just them giving off that energy to you. You know what I mean? And even then, like if you're giving off this love, you're right. If you're on that same, if you're on that same type of timing, everybody around you should want to be on the same type of timing, because people see good in you, and so it's like, okay, bet, cool. I want to be like him. I want to be, or I want to be on that same type of timing, right? So yeah, moving on, right? So now we on the joy, right? Joy is a deep, abiding emotion of extreme happiness, delight, or well-being. This is the overview. While happiness is often a fleeting reaction to external circumstances, joy is typically described as a more enduring state of contentment sparked by gratitude, connection, or the expectation of good, right? So, with applying things like love into your life, with applying things like kindness and goodness in your life, you should that should bring you joy. But then also being a believer, and also uh uh dang, and also having uh how can I word this, having the faith in God, but then also yeah, being a believer as well, right? So with doing those things, but then also being a believer brings you joy, right? There should be no type of panic. There should be no type of sadness going around when you. Well, no. So yeah, never mind. So yeah, even in bad times, you should try to have joy, right? Because, well, first off, you still here. Secondly, you still breathing. You got your legs, you got your hands, your arms, and everything like that. And even if you don't have, limbs and everything like that, you still got your life, right? So it could always be worse than the situation that you in. You know what I mean? So with joy, it kind of gives you a different perspective on life, right? You know what I mean? When you have joy, your walk get a little better. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? When you have joy, you're able to speak to everybody. You're not just ducked off by yourself. You know what I mean? When you have joy, you know what I mean? You're able to spread that, not just you having joy, but you're also able to spread that among. Oh, hey, Red. I just saw Redbird. Solo. Yeah. But anyways, yeah. Uh, when you have joy, you're able to spread it to other people, right? So it's not just you being joyful, it's you and your friend group or your family having joy as well, right? And things that bring joy, right? So every situation that God has brought you through, right? That's a reason to have joy. Um, you ain't had no food yesterday. Oh, my, I almost tripped. Yeah, you ain't had no food yesterday, right? But somehow, some way, somebody was able to bless you with some food. That's the reason to have joy, right? Uh, you wasn't able to pay a certain bill, but you got somebody that is able to help you out with that. That's a reason to have joy. Or you woke up in the morning. That's a reason to have joy, right? So Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, you know what I mean? Uh, yeah. So moving on, we got peace. Peace is a state of harm. Oh, peace is a state of harmony characterized by the absence of violence, hostility, or conflict. Right. So we got societal and political peace. Right, which is in a global or societal context, peace is the absence of war, hostility, or physical violence between nations, groups, or individuals. So if you're, uh, yeah, if you're a believer in politics, or you're a believer in a high position, oh my God, yeah, if you're a believer in a high position or a political position, right, you should be on the timing of trying to stop war or avoid war. Try to show, you know what I mean? So for the well-being of your people, but then also people around the world, right? So you should be on the timing of, you should be trying to keep the peace with your people and everybody else, right? The people that you leading, but then also the people around the world as well. So there is, there's an absence of war and hostility, right? So yeah, yeah. Oh my God, bro, back up. Hold on. That's crazy. I'm out here ducking hornets. But yeah, so yeah, right. So we got inner and mental peace, right? On a personal level, peace is freedom from mental anxiety, emotional distress, and turmoil. Often called peace of mind, it represents a state of mental clarity, emotional balance, and spiritual harmony that allows individuals to remain calm and resilient even in the face of life's challenges, right? So the same thing with like joy almost. You should be walking, you know what I mean, and giving off this joyful kind of vibe, but then also you should have peace within your mental. So then the same type of time with joy, you can spread that amongst, you know what I mean. So like in a certain situations where like a regular person might be provoked, you're not easily provoked, right? Uh, because you have that inner, you know what I mean, that inner mental peace, right? Um, but then also whether it's something more personal, like I said before, financial, you can't eat, you ain't got no clothes, right? Even though you might be working on those things or you have somebody to help you out, not to have that kind of dwelling in you, but to have that mental inner or inner mental, yeah, inner mental peace, right? So on, that's what it meant by like on a personal level, right? So like I said, my anxiety. Let me not speak. I already told y'all that like 15 times. Let me try to think of a different situation. I mean, well, yeah, like if your finances not doing right, if your finances not doing right, not being anxious, but instead of being, but instead of being anxious, getting on your knees praying, God, can you please get me out of this situation, or God, can you please, you know, keep my mental right through this situation. And so once I do get to a point to where I can be able to, or I do have better finances, then what I mean. Now you're thankful. Now you're faith. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. So yeah, moving on. Interpersonal peace. Now I ain't gonna lie. I had to define this because, well, actually, no, I didn't. No, I did. But I had to define this a little bit because I was like interpersonal. I kind of didn't know what that mean. But then I'm like so yeah, never mind. This form of peace refers to harmonious relationships between people, right? It is characterized by mutual understanding, effective communication, and the active resolution of disputes without resorting to hostility, right? So, peace amongst people, peace amongst your peers, peace amongst your church, peace amongst, what I mean, your job, your coworkers and everything like that, or just, uh, yeah. So peace amongst people around you, you know what I mean. You should. So yeah, yeah. Moving on, we got forbearance. So yeah, I definitely did speak on this now that I'm thinking about it. So yeah, but I think it was more along the lines of something else. I might have to go back just to make yeah. But anyway, forbearance, patient, sanctified self restraint. It is the conscious, loving choice to hold back from retaliation, anger, or judgment when provoked, sinned against, or encountering human weaknesses. It reflects God's own patient mercy in withholding immediate punishment to allow space for repentance, right? So the last time I was speaking on this, I was thinking more towards I was it was more towards like money, right? So forbearance in money, somebody owe you money instead of being on that type of timing of say gang, you owe me, right? You can be like, all right, bet I'm gonna give you till whatever, time to go ahead, that's forbearance in money. But then I defined it even more and it's like I got them right here. So God's forbearance, right? God's restraint is profoundly highlighted in the New Testament in Romans chapter 2, verse 4. It links God's riches of his forbearance and long suffering to his desire to lead humanity to repentance rather than wrath. Right? And in the human forbearance, believers are commanded to extend this same grace to others to maintain harmony. Ephesians chapter 4 verse 2 and Colossians chapter 3 verse 13 instruct Christians to forbear one another in love, meaning to absorb offenses without becoming vindictive or bitter. So how we apply this in life, like I said before, somebody provoke you in a way, make you mad, make you sad, not to and it's back. Oh my gosh, not to be on the same type of time and not to be oh like an eye for an eye type thing. Don't do that. No. So like somebody like punch you, right? The normal thing to do will be to lift your hands up and be on that type of timing, right? Nah, that's not what it's saying here. You should, be like, all right, bet, cool. I forgive you this once. Let me just go ahead and just chillax on that. You know what I mean? Try to be on that type of timing because that's the same thing that Jesus was on. There were many people to speak down on him, and even then, if we just keeping it, I mean, and even then, there were people to speak down on him. There were people putting their hands on him. You know what I mean? When he was being crucified, right, and everything, right? Really, I think I spoke on this too. It was a certain number, I forgot the number of angels that was ready to slide, bro. Like that was ready to just come down, seeing Jesus being I said, gonna do the same thing. You on that type of time, and you're gonna have the people around you wanting to be on that same type of time. You know what I mean? So yeah. But then also, which sometimes includes correction and tough love, right? Tough love meaning like with your fam, right? With your friends, right? You know they doing wrong. What's an example of tough love? What's an example of tough love? You disciplining your kids, right? So you a parent and you're disciplining your kids, whether it's punishment by grounding, so like I'm taking your phone, I'm taking everything that brings you fun, or I'm gonna go ahead and whoop you, right? You know what I mean? That's tough love. I love you enough to correct you. I love you enough to try to teach you and steer you in the right direction. So because you did this, I'm gonna go ahead. You feel me? So yeah. Uh, so tough love, also correction. So like same thing, but like in a sense of like somebody doing wrong in the church. Somebody nah, I'm not gonna speak on that. But nah, yeah. So yeah, I had a situation pop up in my head, but I'm like, nah, I don't want to tell you business. So yeah. So what they thought. All right, so yeah. So like somebody that's in your corner, that's in your circle, is wilding out. Right? They done had too much to drink, and they on their IG story just wilding, saying all these different types of things, doing all these different types of things, and you as the friend, especially if you there, come on now, if you there, be like, hey yo, gang, you doing wrong right now. Take their phone if need be. That's the tough love. You know what I mean? Put them in their place. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So, you know, no. So yeah, moving on. We got faithfulness, unwavering loyalty, trustworthiness, and steadfast adherence to promises deeply rooted in the character of God, right? With all these things that we're applying in life, with all these different situations that we're in, uh, with all these different situations that we're in, the things that we learn in life, as believers, come from well, first off, the situations that we live in, but then also the things that we learn in the Bible, right? So coming through these situations and being able to testify and being able to tell other people about it, right? Where was I going with that? Okay. So let me run it back. So faithfulness, right? I'm speaking, but then I'm like I'm not thinking fast enough. So yeah, faithfulness, right? Unwavering loyalty, right? Trustworthiness and steadfast adherence to promises deeply rooted in the character of God, right? So with God, that's where I want to go with. So with God, getting you out or leading you through or getting you through these situations that you're in life. Like I said, financial, mental, physical, whatever, right? When it says unwavering loyalty, that kind of adds on to that, right? So the reasoning behind you having that unwavering loyalty towards God is because He brought you out, because He gave you all these different lessons in the situations that you be in. Like I was telling y'all about, the time where I was on the stealing. You know what I mean? Being in that situation, almost being arrested, that was a lesson that God was, putting me through. And so, uh, uh, and so I now know, okay, that I need to stop doing that, and I need to be in my word a little bit more, so those vibes, those things that regularly be in my head go away, right? So when we're talking about faithfulness, we're talking about unwavering loyalty. We're talking about ride or die. We're talking about, your inner circle, people, but faithful also to God too. You know what I mean? So yeah, moving on. We got gentleness. Oh no, this is not the last one. This is second to last one. So that gentleness, right? Strength under control, rather than weakness or passivity. I should have defined that too. It is power and passion yielded to God. Biblical gentleness is a courageous and humble compassion that responds to conflict with grace and serves others gently. Right? Strength under control. Yeah, yeah. So strength in speech, right? It has the power to disarm conflict, as noted in Proverbs chapter 15, verse 1. A gentle answer turns away wrath. but a harsh word stirs up anger. You got somebody speaking wrong. You got somebody, or I guess I can say more of a sense like you got somebody speaking wrong about the Bible. You got somebody, uh, uh, dang, or you have somebody speaking on something that they think might be in the Bible, but it's not in the Bible. If you're somebody that's regularly in the Bible, you could respectfully, that's what it's talking about, steer them in the right direction. Be like, okay, yeah, no, that's not where to go. I'm gonna tell you where to, you know what I mean. I'm gonna tell you what actually happened. But respectful, right? Not just saying, nah, you're wrong. Get out of here, leading them astray. No, you should not be on that type of time. No, that's what gentleness kind of, yeah, in speech, right? How to treat others. Believers are instructed to use gentleness when correcting others, and to let their gentle spirit be evident to everyone. So kind of like how I was saying, joy, love, how you should when you give off that, everybody around you should want to be that or try to be on that same type of time. And the same thing with gentleness, right? Uh, it should be evident to everyone on how what type of timing you're on. Everybody should know, okay, bet when it comes to Tim, he's gonna be on that type of timing. When it comes to so and so, they're gonna be on that type of timing. So yeah, moving on. Boy, I'm trying to duck these hornets, they owe me. That's wild. Alright. Last but not least, we got self-control. Now this can mean a number of things. Bodily self-control, like self-control like with your flesh, but then also self-control as far as uh, what type of time you're on in life, like in life around people. You know what I mean? So yeah, self-control, often linked with discipline and sobriety. It is described as a vital spiritual virtue rather than just human willpower. Scripture highlights it as a protective boundary for the soul. It provides protection. Proverbs chapter 25, verse 28 warns that a man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. Just like how walls defend the city, self-control guards your heart and mind against destructive temptations. Uh, it requires active discipline. The Bible compares self-control to training for an athletic competition. In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24 through 27, Paul writes about the need to discipline my body and keep it under control to pursue eternal rather than temporary rewards, right? So, yeah, and that's the last one. So, like, self-control as in, like, having the self-control to know, like, okay, bet, you out in a kickback, you out vibing with your friends, right? And you know they're gonna have a little, liquid courage that, in them, right? Or something else, right? Having the self-control to either not be on that type of time and be like, all right, bet, cool, I'm gonna be the DD, I'm gonna be the designated driver, or I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna just be here chilling, or having the self-control to do it but not over the limit, right? So not get drunk basically, or get, you hear me? So, but then also fleshly self-control. So like, I'm trying to think like temptation. Uh, well, yeah. So like, you're being tempted. Let's just say you're in a relationship, right? You're in a relationship, and let's just say you're out, not with your spouse or significant other, but you're out, and it's a whole bunch of, people around that, you know, and you're being tempted by whoever. Like somebody pull up and be like, hey, you know what I mean? Like I'm feeling you on some stuff, right? And that's basically being tempted. So you have the self control to be like, nah, I'm with somebody, I got a girl, or I have a wife, or whoever. You know what I mean? Nah, I'm not. I'm not interested. I gotta. You feel me? So yeah, self control, fleshly, but then also, what's another situation? So like dieting, right? So like you working out every day or almost every day. You putting in that work. You dieting and everything like that. Having the self control to not be on junk food, to not or that much. I mean, to be on that much junk food, not to be overeating, to be gluttonous, right? Having the self control to do that, right? So yeah. Those are. Wait, let me look at my notes before I end this, cause hold on. Yep, that's the last. So yeah, bet, cool. So those are the fruits of the spirit. That's another thing. That's another lesson. These are things that we should try to uh, apply. When you when you think of a believer, when you think of somebody who is, or when you think of somebody who is a believer, these things should be evident within you and within everybody that's around you, right? So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and enjoy the rest of this humid day. I feel like it's gonna rain a little later, so I'm gonna have to walk with the purpose, most deaf. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here, and yeah, uh, yeah. I'll enjoy the rest of this day. Y'all make sure y'all do too. Peace. Oh my God. See, this is what I'm talking about, bro. These hornets, bro. I see y'all later.